Alright, well, it's been quite a while since I've done much with the Kubota aside from some plowing and various tasks here and there, but pretty much the last 3 months have been on winter break, and I've been raring to get playing with this again, and I've ordered a new toy, which actually just showed up. And probably from the title of the video, and possibly from what you can see now, I have installed a third valve kit on this, as well as ordered a new grapple. A lot of people have been nagging at me to get a grapple. I've wanted a grapple since before I owned the tractor, but I just wasn't sure on the cost to use ratio. And it's kind of just been proven over the jobs that I've had that it's just going to be overwhelmingly useful, even at the somewhat high cost entry. So I ended up not doing a video installing the third function kit. I ordered the Summit third function kit for the BX series tractors. Now, on the BX series tractors that it says it supports, it does everything up to and before the 80 series. So with the 80 series, it's a bit different since the loader arm is in the back fender, and this front loader is actually a different model. And this cross member right here is too big to fit the clasping U-joint. So I ended up just putting my cables over here off to the side of the parking stand, and I don't ever really take this off or use the parking stand, so this is fine for me right now just to hold them in place. As well as the bracket ended up putting it out too far over to the side, so these hoses were rubbing against the front guard here. So in essence, this ends up being a better spot, keeps them tucked in a little bit better, and if I ever need to use the parking stand, I can just trim the little zip tie for the moment until I come up with maybe a better solution. But they're on there pretty good, they're not going anywhere, and the rest of the install went pretty much the same. Now for the install, I ended up watching Biff's equipment video. I'll link that in the description or in the top card. And he did a great job of going over how to install this, so I didn't feel like I needed to make another video on that. But the only difference for installing on this tractor is realistically the routing up there to back here for this loader valve, or this loader joystick. So for space down by the valve, it's pretty tight for all the space with the actual hard lines coming in for the hydraulics, with the full face connector with just the single connector. So getting the pipes through here is a little bit tough, but not too bad. And you do get enough length to get all the way back to here, both with the electrical relays as well as the hydraulic hoses. And then underneath here, it's tough to see with the wheel on, but you have the same exact pressure and tank valves. You connect to the left valve down here, and the difference is for the tank valve, I believe it is, instead of connecting down here to a metal pipe, you end up going up behind to where the loader joystick is, and you can actually see the valve through here. It's this valve that's connected right underneath the gear selector. So you basically just pop that little 90 and turn it a bit and connect right in, and then it's just a matter of finding a way to get the piping back to the front. So overall, wasn't a bad install, just some cuts on the hands because it's so tight in there, and everything else seems to work okay, but the real test will be to see if it works with the grapple. Alright, so the grapple that I chose to go with was Everything Attachments Wicked Root Grapple. This is a 50-inch version, and it's a single lid. There are a whole slew of grapple options, and I don't really think you can go wrong with any of them. And I haven't used one enough to know what's going to be the best for my application, but I figured for what I'm doing, having the ability to use it like a pair of forks and a grapple at the same time made it a lot more useful for moving things like rocks or items that you wouldn't necessarily want to rely on the pure grip of the grapple to hold it in, and more rely on the grapple to just stabilize the load. So this lid version versus, say, a clamshell version, which just has the back tines and then the top grapple that comes sweeping down all the way, gives me a little bit more space to put in objects that I don't have to rely on just the pure gripping force to pick up. This could be proven totally wrong once I start using it, but I thought this was a great choice. It was a great price. They make pretty good products over at Everything Attachments from everything I've seen, so I don't think I could go wrong with that. They definitely put them through the abuse when they're demoing them, and I was overall impressed with everything about them. So this one I ordered about 10 weeks ago, and it shipped out last Thursday and showed up today, which is Wednesday. So it was a little under a week of shipping, and got it right in time for the spring season. Alright, so another cool toy I bought is a electric grease gun. I figure this is going to be pretty useful even with just this machine, how many fittings there are, and I generally have to do it once or twice a job depending on what I'm doing. So it'll definitely beat doing it with the hand pump. So it looks like there's a fitting on either side of the lid, and then there's fittings in the bolts for the actual hydraulic, but they kind of just spit out because there's such a thin plate in between them that they don't really go in. So I might be better off just putting some grease right on top of the pin and just rubbing it around. I gotta say, really happy I bought this. Okay, so the way it's set up right now, the buttons for me are backwards the way I'd like them, so I believe all I have to do is swap the relays around on the valve. Alright, so now the front button on the handle should close it, and the back one should open it. Alright, since it's kind of nice out, I guess I'll go mess around with this. Alright, well, since everything just melted, it's kind of a muddy mess. Actually, one of the next projects I plan on doing is stripping out all this soil over here and just going with the gravel drive all the way up the back, because it just gets way too wet and nothing ends up growing over here because of the fact that it's just so driven on and compacted, and then just water just erodes it. So alright, I'll see if I can get up to the backyard somehow here. All right, well, I managed to get it up using the backhoe and pulling itself up, but all right. What happened was the fittings up here that have the O-rings, I tightened them down to the O-rings were tight, but I guess that just left too much space for oil to spurt out. So when I closed and opened the grapple all the way, when I was moving that rock around, it totally bursted out some fluid, probably because I back pressured it with the lid against the rock. So I'll see if this blows out now. It didn't when I was closing it and opening it, so hopefully that's tight enough. All right, so it kind of looks like on the front fittings too, wherever the O-ring fittings on these summit ends, I'm feeling like you almost don't want the O-rings. You want to just cinch those down as tight as possible because they're just spurting whenever they get too much pressure on them, especially if the lid's hitting the logs. And I'm also not too great with this thing yet because I'm not used to the distance that the top lid goes out, as well as the weight compared to a bucket or forks. So I'm kind of looking like I'm just whacking it around. Hello, Mac. Hello, Mac. Yeah. Mac is getting big. It's about 50 pounds now in 9 months. It's been that long already. Good God. All right, so overall right now I'm really liking this. You can definitely feel the weight of it on the front. Much more so than the bucket because you have a lot more front weight on it. So when you're moving it back and forth, tilting it, you can really feel it moving the end of the boom. But I'm really thinking that it's going to prove to be very useful over the course of all these jobs that I plan on doing, not only here but out for customers, because the amount, I'd say about 80% of the jobs, and you guys know from my videos, about 80% of those jobs that I did would have heavily benefited from having a grapple versus using the bucket or forks or the backhoe as a pseudo grapple. And I think this will pay itself off very quickly and allow me to do a lot more stuff. And I'm very pleased with this purchase so far. I was picking up fine material, some rocks, some logs, a stump, pretty much all the material that I would usually be picking up, and it did it just fine. So once we get some warmer weather in the next week or so, I should be back to doing some work out here. I got a bunch of projects I want to do on my own, plus starting to do work for other people and advertising for that. Now here's another piece of equipment that you guys may have seen during the video here. This is actually the bigger dump trailer that I ended up picking up at the end of last season, but didn't have any time to use. So my father and I split this, and we sold the previous trailer that we had, the 6x10 Downeaster, and we ended up getting this 7x14 Big Tex LP. So it is a 14K trailer instead of a 10K, and I guess as we can see on the side here, we can put about 10,000 pounds in it. So this will allow us to pull a whole bunch of things if we wanted to get the Kubota in there plus some attachments, or we want to get something bigger in there possibly. And it'll also allow me to take a lot larger loads if I'm doing a brush removal or bringing some stone somewhere, or even just moving items, whatever it may be. We got an incredible deal on this from when we were getting our plows installed on our trucks, I think anyway, for the price that they were offering it versus what you were looking at some other local dealerships. And I'm hoping it works well. So I haven't had time to actually use this trailer beyond moving it around the yard a bit, because we got it at the end of November and it pretty much just started snowing right after that. So it's been pretty much sitting here. It's got a tarp kit, it's got the 12K jack, it has a scissor lift style lifting mechanism. It has stake pockets, the tie downs for a tarp over it, the tarp kit. It has the multifunction doors, and it also has a full floor in here. It doesn't have the seamed floor, which I like, so stuff won't get caught in there or be breaking apart those beads, although I don't think that really happens on many of them. It also has the tie downs down on the bottom angle versus up on the wall, like I've seen some of the other ones, which ends up, if you tighten it too much or something shifts the wrong way, it can pull the wall out. Up in the top, it has them in the corners, right on the sport beams, and the ramps are pull out underneath, and they just hook on to a portion of the door frame here. That's pretty much how all of them are. And it also has stabilizer legs for the back, so that if we're loading heavier equipment, or even the Kubota, we can drop these down and it won't get so much leverage on the ball of the truck and twist the truck around. But overall, I've been really looking forward to using this trailer, and I think I'll be using it come the spring here, because I think a lot of people will be having brush removal requests, and or they'll be asking for some material in that may not be, suitable for a 20-ton truck. So I guess look forward to seeing this in some videos. So another project I'm looking at doing within the next few weeks here, as this snow dries up, is getting drainage over here better. Because what ended up happening was, after I had graded all this so it would drain correctly, we put in the loam and everything on top, and then everything settled. So what happens is all the water, unfortunately this is just how the backyard slopes and everything, all the water comes down through here and ends up stopping right in this corner because it's the lowest spot, and I could not get it any lower over there because I was just digging into so much crap. So unfortunately I get this huge puddle of water, as you can see, with the ice, and it stays very muddy on this side, also because it gets a lot of shade. So my plan is going to be taking that gutter up there, running a pipe down, putting a couple catch basins down here, and then just running out to the street. So that'll be a project I want to get done as soon as possible, so I can keep all this water from the hill and from the leach field from just collecting here, as well as from over there, because it just, as you can see, it's just a huge puddle and becomes unusable. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I've been just eagerly awaiting being able to do stuff outside and do some projects, because it's very boring sitting inside working from home and spending my weekends inside while it's snowing. Just wanting to do some work. So over the next few weeks I'll be probably doing work around my house for sure once the snow goes, and then after that I'll be right back into doing some jobs. And Mac over here will just keep eating all the roots, making sure this tree don't grow.